It's time for a steampunk mixed media project, and here is my steampunk art journal that I've been working on. It's got stamping, it's got ephemera, obviously, from my cut and collage books that you saw in the intro there. It's got jelly prints, it's got all kinds of ephemera going on there, and tickets, and yeah, lots of juicy, lovely gorgeousness, and some gold pen, and yeah, lots of nice things. So I wanted to produce a purple steampunk art piece today, and as you can see here, these are some offcuts of some gel prints that I made previously, and they've got lots of beautiful gold. I use acrylic paint when I'm jelly printing, and stencils, so you can see those patterns there on the gel papers. So I also had these postcard backgrounds that I made a while back using stamping, bits of jelly print, bits of old exercise books that had faded to that beautiful old book yellowy colour, and archival ink with the stamps as well in a couple of different colours. So I really wanted that rich layered effect on this piece, so I decided to use these jelly prints to form a background. This video, therefore, is going to be a craft with me using steampunk papers, and I'm showing you how to use steampunk papers in a junk journal or an art journal, and I hope you're going to enjoy all of the techniques that I am going to use. So I've already explained about the jelly printing and some of the stamping as well, and as I mentioned, I do use Ranger archival inks. They are permanent inks, so if you get them on your fingers, it's quite hard to get the ink off, and you will notice my fingers getting very grubby in this video as it goes along. So the cut and collage papers that I used in this book are predominantly gel prints and also some patterns from my Steampunk Patterns and Papers book, which is a separate book, and I've used it loads in this journal for backgrounds. So where I make like a masterboard style background, as I would call it, I use a mixture of colours that I like. Usually, this is not how I've made this particular background. Well, it is, but not with the squares that I normally use, if you've seen my masterboard videos. So this is more just exploring and putting things together in more of a sort of make it up as you go along way, rather than with an overall, pattern for the background. So I've used these narrow pieces, using up, well, not using up, that sounds like they're just leftovers. I made these because I wanted to make something gorgeous and bright and with rich colours and patterns. So using up sounds a bit derogatory to my beautiful gel prints. I think they are anyway. And yeah, so I love the vintage style, and that's kind of what I wanted to play around with, mixing and matching lots of different mixed media and vintage pieces to make this background. So you can see I'm making a kind of frame here so that the postcard can just sit itself on the top, and it looks like the whole background is a gel print. So there we are, that's all stuck down. So I keep flipping back and forth because I do want the book to have a certain flow to it as the reader goes through from page to page, and I want to kind of, although I want to do different styles, I also want the whole book to kind of hang together with that steampunk style and with the vintage aesthetics as well. that I'm using. So I've gone in with the corner rounder there. I love using that little corner rounder. It's very satisfying and it looks so much more finished and professional, I think, to round the corners of certain bits and bobs anyway. While I'm making this second page, which as you can probably guess is going to be quite similar, sort of mirroring the first page there, I would love to tell you about my new book that I'm working on. I was up late last night just editing the final version of it, and I've been working on that cut and collage book for well over a year, and it's had various incarnations. Some of the pages I have completely ditched and gone for a completely different aesthetic. It's been a real challenge, and I hope you're going to love what I have put together in that particular book, because it's a style that I really love. It's bursting with colour and all kinds of yummy, juicy deliciousness, and yeah, I can't wait to get it published, see it in the flesh, so to speak, get my first copy through the post, which is always really thrilling to me, to open up that Amazon package and pull out the first actual printed copy of one of my new books. Nothing quite beats that feeling, I have to say. But I will share that moment with you, and when I have finally done the very last edits and got the cover right and all the lettering and everything looks as perfect as I can possibly get it, then we'll let Amazon do their thing. So something to look forward to there, and maybe put on your Christmas list for Santa. Anyway, here we go. I am trimming the edges. So this journal already had really beautiful rounded corners in it, so I'm just trying to cut as carefully as I can, obviously around the edges, and to try and maintain the integrity of the corners in this particular journal. And yeah, the paper's quite thin in this journal, so sometimes I'm actually just gluing the back paper to the back of the artwork page, if that makes sense, to make it a little bit thicker and a bit more satisfying to turn the page, because I don't want floppy pages. I want them to be nice and crisp and have that lovely sort of layered, slightly, I don't know, homemade effect. Homemade. Okay, so going in with the other postcard there, you can see the mushrooms, and you can probably just see the butterflies there on that stamp. So yeah, I bought those woodland stamps on Amazon ages ago, and I just wanted to have some fun creating some vintage looking backgrounds with them. So I made a load of little tickets with the stamps and cut them out, and so now I've got a pile of them ready to use. And here's my ephemera holder that I made in the front. So some of these I'd already cut out from my Steampunk Patterns and Papers ephemera book, cut and collage book, and there are the books. So yeah, this one's got patterns at the back, so there's quite a lot of choice of patterns, but predominantly the book is steampunk ephemera, and there's a real range in there. As you can see, there's some pretty pink steampunk, which I really like, and that's going to be quite useful for this page, obviously, because I've gone with that sort of purpley pinky vibe. So lovely steampunk top hat there. And I've already got that pale pink one. Is it too many hats, I ask myself. Can you ever have too many steampunk top hats in a steampunk journal? I'm not sure that you can. Who makes these rules? Anyway, you can see in this book there's a real range. So we've got sort of cyber girls here, metallic, metal sort of mechanical cyber girls, I would like to think of them as. And Having a cut and collage book, I find, is a really easy way to keep all my ephemera together. You know, printables are a nice idea, and I do have a little printables shop with some stuff that goes with my fairies books. There's some nice journaling pages in there, but I do think cut and collage books are a bit more, there's a kind of wholeness to them, and there's enough in there to make plenty of projects. So I've already made some postcards with this cut and collage book, so if you notice there's quite a lot of things cut out of it. That is the reason, because I did quite a few different postcard projects. I'd love to make some steampunk ATCs as well, because that is super fun, and I do like working on a small scale. And a lot of people have commented that my books are great for artist trading cards, and that's, shall I let you into a secret, guys? The reason that I put so many little illustrations in my cut and collage books is actually that I can't choose. There's so many gorgeous images that I want to put in there, and it's really hard to whittle it down and audition pictures on a page and then decide that maybe one of them's not quite up to scratch, so I'll whittle it down again and replace it with something else. So, and I do think it's really, really important to give options on size as well, because, you know, it's nice to have a light bulb, but if it's too big for the project you're working on, you need a smaller light bulb. So you might have seen some tiny light bulbs there as well. Things like that. I try and give you as many options as possible, and lots of decorative things like those little tiny roses at the top there, and that clock. A vintage clock with the flowers around it. So yeah, the more options you have, I think, you know, the more you're going to use up this book, and you get a good flavour of what's inside on the front cover there as well. So yeah, if you go to the description box, I've obviously put links to these two books down below. And the links I've used are universal book links, which means that they will take you to the country that your nearest Amazon resides in. So it should work. I think it works. People have given me some really helpful feedback that those links do work in the different countries that they live in. So some countries don't publish colour books with the high quality paper, I think. So if you find they're not available, I've got a feeling that Japan might be one of them. I'm not sure. I can't remember, to be honest, but there are one or two countries. If you're struggling to get hold of these books, you know, that Amazon link will send you to the nearest country. So this is my Steampunk Cats and Dogs book, and I love this book. It really makes me laugh. And you can see lots of portraits, a very regal looking, very AI, obviously, cats, dogs and puppies, kittens, and their steampunk family and relations and so on. And they're so adorable and cute, in my opinion. And yes, some of my books do contain quite a lot of AI, and we're all getting used to AI now, I think, or, you know, we know what it is, and you can guess that this book was made with AI. However, I do these days create all my own images on AI. I don't use images anymore from platforms where other people have made the images, and that's because copyright is a big issue for people making books like this, and I want to have control over the images that I put in my books, because it's a real headache otherwise trying to check on every single image whether it's allowed to be used in a book or printed on a t-shirt or used in a home printable. You know, it's a bit of a minefield, so that's why I now create all my own images using AI. And some of them are composite images, or I doctor them and play with them and put 3 or 4 things together, you know, to make a new image. And I tinker with the colours, I edit bits. Obviously I count how many fingers my characters have. Sometimes they have 6, sometimes they have other numbers of fingers. So anyway, things like that can be a bit of a headache, but just getting all these amazing aesthetics and colours, it's just an incredible tool to have to be able to create books like these. So yeah, that steampunk book does have some images from other sources, but yeah, I did make that book a couple of years ago now, so I've moved on. Right, you can see some stamping has happened here. Can you see the fancy black sort of scroll at the top? I bought some stamps. You can see a couple of them. There's one. You can see the others there. And coming in with the Ranger archival ink in black soot, I think that colour is called. So yeah, I picked those up in a charity shop when I was dropping off some books a few weeks ago, and they were a couple of pounds each here in the UK, so that would be a thrift shop if you're across the pond. So brand spanking new, never used, absolutely perfect for steampunk and vintage things. So I felt like giving away a lot of books. Some of them I didn't want to give away, but I had to make some space somehow. Yeah, I got a little prize and a reward from the charity shop by being able to find some craft supplies. So I made the decision here to go around my images with black. Now, I don't generally use black, and the reason, I don't know, I think it's a bit harsh, a bit stark. Some people, that's their style. Not so much my style, but I did want to push myself a bit beyond what I normally do in this piece of artwork. So you can see I'm just inking around the edges with my ink dabber. It's so satisfying. I know not everybody inks around the edges, and that's fine, do what you want to do, but I do think that the black has just made those pieces of ephemera pop out a little bit more on the page and given them a little bit more, not really 3D, but just a bit more richness. And yeah, I did want a little bit of a darker, slightly, not menacing, that's not the right word, what's the word, a mysterious kind of Victorian dark alleyways kind of aesthetic, if that makes sense. So something a bit mystical, like a dusty old inventor's lab, or a dark old library at night, or something like that, you know, that kind of look. So just playing around here with what I've already cut out and just trying to get a bit of balance on the page, and you know, to get the colours sort of spread across. And I think the eyes of the cyber girl really draw the viewer of this piece of work in to the picture, but I don't want that to be the only focal point. So what I quite enjoy playing with in this book is multiple focal points where your eye is drawn to different parts and you're constantly spotting new things as you look at the piece. So yeah, so later on I did slightly regret sticking that teacup there, although I wanted to make the whole page sort of into one piece rather than two opposite pieces of similar work. That teacup, that was the idea of sticking it across the middle of the page there. And I'm happy with all the other pieces just as they are. And I just love the blue of that blue light bulb. It gives just another Another dimension to the colour scheme, I think, although it does have a little bit of that purple in it. You can tell I'm a bit obsessed with colour schemes. So there goes the Steampunk Rose from the Cut and Collage book. And yeah, happy with that, but it's clearly not finished yet. I was desperate to use this piece of ephemera. It's been sitting in my little ephemera holder at the front of the book for some months now, and it's perfect for this piece with the pink flowers. So I decided to cut it in half and spread the love around the page rather than just plonk it somewhere. Also, I've already put quite a few ephemera elements on the page in the central area, but the edges I really wanted to extend the kind of eye candy around the edges as well. Now I used this book, as you can see with the scribbles on it, I used that for gluing, and I've also used it for some of the background patterns on the artwork in front of you as well. Reason being, I used to just have like a bit of old scrap paper for gluing, and once you've glued a couple of things on it, you can't see where the glue is anymore, and then things start getting sticky. Whereas with that little book, I can just flip the page, find a new page to glue on, and it's all clean and dry, and yeah, it just works really well. And eventually the pages get all manky and need chucking away, but it really is a good way to recycle an old book. Just sticking down the other piece here, and I think I realised I hadn't put enough ink. I did ink round it, you saw me. But yeah, I needed a bit more really to stand out, so luckily it wasn't too gluey. So easy to forget inking around the edges and then sticking things down. Time for some more prettiness, and I've got my vintage butterflies book out. There are over 1,000 butterflies and moths in this book, and there's such a huge variety of sizes and colours, and I'm bound to find some things that are going to work in this piece. You can see the book. Now this is not AI generated at all. The whole book, it's one of the first ones that I published. I think it might have been the third one of all 26. These images were all from botanical illustrators and illustrators of wildlife and so on. Most of these are probably from the 1800s, I would say. They were all copyright free, so I was fine to use them in this book. And you, if you're sharp-eyed and you do a lot of crafting, you might have seen some of these butterflies elsewhere, because the images are available freely for people to use. And I've even seen that poster in a bookshop window in London a few months ago. I was like, that's from my book. So yeah, loving that moth there. Look at the pinks and purples. I think possibly some of the illustrations have had the colours tinkered with a little bit, but when I made this book, it was about 2.5 years ago. I don't think that there was AI art at the point when I made that book, so some of those illustrations that I got from a huge variety of sources, the person who put that illustration up there could have been AI, but it was before that time, so you can be pretty sure these are actual vintage butterflies and moths, which is why I called the book after that name. Just check out the colours of that gorgeous moth. Really bright, maybe too bright for this spread, I'm not sure. Anyway, there's so much choice in here, and there's loads of subtle colours as well, and sort of like these little tiny ones, which would be great for artist trading cards, even twinchies, because they're really small, but also you can cut out sort of 5 or 6 of them and use them to decorate an unrelated piece of art. So I love those. They just fill in the little spaces and pretty things up a bit. and the colour scheme, as I say, there's so much choice. It just makes it really easy. And I'm glad I bought a copy of my own book because I use it all the time. And I saw Nicole on Relax Cut Glue using this book the other day, this and the Vintage Flowers book. And she says she has them by her desk and uses them all the time. And I do often see a little butterfly or something here and there. She used a bird as well from the Vintage Birds book for a little colour challenge spread that she did with woodland colours. Oh my goodness, I love the colours of this moth. What do you think? They're just so juicy, kind of raspberry and purple. And I think the black inking really brings out that, the darker tones on the pattern as well, and just makes it look absolutely scrumptious. So, yeah, at this point, I started to seriously regret putting that teacup right slap bang in the middle of the book. But can you see where my thought process was going here? With the butterflies all folding down the middle. And I desperately wanted to move that teacup and saucer, but it was too late. It was properly dried on and I didn't want to mess with it. So I sort of worked around it, and it would have been super pretty if I'd got room for another couple of moths there instead of the steampunk teacup, which could have gone perhaps underneath the top hat in that stamped space there. But what are you going to do? You're always learning when you're doing this, and I have got an entire book there with plenty of space to do more butterfly folds down the middle. In fact, I think I might do a steampunk butterfly and moth themed page and properly exploit that idea of having the butterflies folding in the middle of the page. I'll probably do it somewhere completely different in the book so it doesn't just follow on. But yeah, that's given me a new idea. And it's one of those things in life, isn't it? If you're stuck and you don't make any moves at all, this can be with anything, your career or, I don't know, cooking or anything at all that you're stuck with. If you don't actually move forward, then the process can't happen. That sounds really obvious, but, if I let something hold me back, like, thinking that my crafting is not good enough to put on YouTube, as an example, I would never have, just thrown myself into the ring and had a go. And I think you just learn from trying things out and playing, and, you get better and better and you generate new ideas. But if you're not moving forward, none of that magical process of sort of evolution can happen. So I'm really happy with this page so far, but I'm pretty sure at this point that there is more that I could do. But I love that moth at the top so much. And yeah, so at this point I'm trying to get the whole page to sort of pull together, because I've got the main ephemera pieces, and yes, it is an art journal and for exploring, but I do sort of want finished looking pieces in here on every page. And I'm really loving the black dark edges that I've put around the ephemera here, and I was so happy with how these black edges came out on the whole thing. So I think maybe I've been converted to having a play with black ink. And where are we? It's early September now, first week in September. There's a lot of autumn and even Halloween stuff appearing on Instagram, let's say. And so I think, going down the darker, richer colours is quite fun. I think everybody has had in the UK in London, certainly. We've had a really long, hot summer, and everybody's been going around in shorts and t-shirts. Nobody's worn a jumper for absolutely ages, or a sweater. And yeah, walking through the train station in London yesterday, and loads of people were wearing chunky knit sweaters that, like they got their favourite ones out of the cupboard. You could see there was some really nice autumnal gear being worn, and I think people have missed that because it's just been roasting hot, and now suddenly the weather has changed here as well, so it's very weird weather. 1 minute it's pouring with rain, sort of rain that makes your head bleed, and then 5 minutes later the sun's come out and it's perfect blue sky and it looks like summer again. It's been bonkers, but yeah, I'm enjoying the prospect of autumn. So now I have got these glitter glue pens here, and I think they came from WH Smith's. So I actually bought them as a gift for my mum because she recycles greetings cards now, and I thought this would be fun for her, but I think she didn't really get along with them, and she's not really into crafting, if I'm being brutally honest, so she gave them back to me. So anyway, yeah, but there's some juicy colours. Look at that lavender lilac-y colour. That is one of my very favourite colours in the whole wide world. I'm not sure how well this is showing up on camera, but I was just picking out some of the details in the whole spread. So on the top hat there, the brim and the little leather details, and actually in person it makes a real difference. So I've got a sparkly butterfly now, and I'm just sort of matching the colours. And the only thing I'd say about these glue pens, can you see how hard I'm having to squeeze to get the glue out? And I had to use the needle from my art glitter glue to try and unblock the pens. So to be honest, I think they're probably for kids, but kids are going to have just as much trouble getting the glue out as I did. Quite a lot of pressure needs to be applied, but it does get around that whole awful glitter thing that can happen when you're using glitter. If you've watched my channel before, then you'll know that I was a primary school teacher for the best part of 30 years is what I tend to say these days. Anyway, I don't do teaching anymore. I have a completely different line of work now, which is far more relaxing and really good fun. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole other story. But when I was a teacher, going back to those days, talking about in the late 80s and the 90s, 2000s, glitter was definitely a thing at Christmas that came out probably in thousands and thousands of classrooms and ended up everywhere. And at the end of term, when the kids took home all their Christmassy things that they'd made, their book bags and backpacks would be absolutely full of bits of glitter that had fallen off. And every day the cleaner would come in at the end of a day when we'd be making Christmassy stuff, and there'd just be glitter all over the table, glitter all over the carpet, glitter everywhere. And it's really hard to get rid of. And you would notice it more after Christmas, like in January, when all the Christmassy stuff had gone away and you're still finding glitter everywhere. So one of the things that we did at a previous school that I worked at, we did decide to go glitter free, because actually we've all realised that glitter is just ending up everywhere in the environment, in the sea, in landfill, it's just getting everywhere, and it's not actually all that great. So we decided to go glitter free. So actually these glitter glue sticks are a great idea. You only get a little bit of glitter where you want it. It doesn't end up flying about everywhere. You're not inhaling it or anything like that. How many kids probably inhaled or ate glitter? Goodness only knows, talking about young children here. So I quite like the idea of these glitter pens, even though I had to cut the tips off with my scissors to just get at the glue. And yeah, I'm not sure, but anyway, I'll probably have to cut them yet again next time, or poke the gluey glitter back in. But they are a much better idea, and I certainly don't want glitter all over my house. But I hadn't planned to do any glittering in this book, but it just suddenly, because I've gone for a darker theme than I usually do, I just felt like, hey, I can use my glittery pens. So I've just slowed things down here for you so you can hopefully get a bit of a picture of the shininess of this page, because while it's not moving about, you can't see the iridescent inks or obviously the different colours of glitter that I've highlighted different parts with. Hopefully you can see in this slowed down version, you can, get a proper idea of what it looks like in person, because it actually looks much better in person. And yeah, the glitter and the iridescence and all the patterns. If I was doing this again, I wouldn't stick anything down until I'd chosen all my ephemera. That's all I'm going to say now, looking back at this. There's a few things that I would have tweaked and shifted a little bit just to make it look a little bit more balanced overall. But in general, I am quite happy with the close-up details of this, and really happy with all the ephemera that I used out of my books, especially that butterfly, moth. I keep calling butterflies moths. Especially that moth and the girl. In fact, there isn't any piece of ephemera that I think doesn't work on this page. I think all of the things I picked have worked really well, so happy days there. And I'm happy that I've gone for this juicy purple. I think purple and red go so well. That colour scheme is like velvety and sort of nighttime colours. So I'm really thrilled with that. There's a little bit of that butterfly that got damaged. Might have to get some purple paint out and just touch that up later. So maybe I put a bit too much glitter on that moth, but it's quite nice to shake things up a bit. You can't really see the actual illustration and the wing detail, but never mind. I could paint over that, I guess, too. But yeah. Anyway, there we go. So thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe and share. Take care, guys. Bye.